is going on tonight? Welcome back to Law and Dude Unearthed. First and foremost, I would like to actually apologize for the last podcast. I was listening to it and I was a little too tired when I recorded that. I was talking about getting ready for the week. It was a Sunday night, and I'm half asleep trying to record a podcast. And you could definitely tell. Um, I had to edit out some parts where I went blank, and I know that's stuff that you wouldn't know without me actually telling you. But one thing that's key about me, and this is something that I say to our kids all the time, accountability is key. That is a big thing for me, accountability. And I hold myself accountable. I hold myself to a higher standard than most. That is just how I am. So even when it comes to a podcast, something that I'm having fun doing, I would like it to be like top quality, uh, good listen. I've listened to other podcasts where the audio is not great, or the podcast just isn't good because it sounds like somebody's in the ocean, I half sleep. And that's the next thing I'm working on is the audio. I know the audio hasn't been the best here, but bear with me. I am working on it. I just bought some microphones. I'm actually trying them out right now. I do. My wife and I actually bought. We bought the podcast mic, but that's more so for when we're stationary. What I have right now is a mobile mic. I'm actually sitting in my truck right now at my son's practice. Uh, my RAM actually becomes my mobile office when at either my son's practice or not really so much my daughter's practices, because with soccer, I don't know, it's just different. It's actually on the field and everything then, so don't get as much done there. When it comes to work, it's just straight up watching the practice versus my son plays baseball. So the way this parking lot is set up, it's literally next to the field, and the parking spots, to paint context for you, the parking spaces are slanted at 45-degree angles. So I pick the same spot every time I come over here where my truck is perfectly aligned to the field, and I can watch the whole entire practice and hammer away a little bit of work. So that's what I'm doing right now, hammering away at some work, and just figure I want to go ahead and record a fresh podcast, hopefully a better one this time, because I'm not happy with the last one. So, what is my topic for conversation in this one? My topic for conversation in this one is going to be staying strong and remembering the main thing and keeping the main thing the main thing. What I mean by that is spring rush, we get so doggone busy with everything at this point in time. It's work, phones, especially owner operators, family, all the above. So I could really keep this podcast to the highlight reel and how great these days go. And oh my gosh, I'm out here killing stripes. Everything just is going great. Woo wee! The sunshine and rainbows are on 1,000 right now. But you know what? I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. There are days when Spring Rush is kicking my butt. There are days when I'm on top of it with Spring Rush. Now, yesterday, Monday, the day after the last podcast went out, was a rough day. Rough day. So, this was my Monday that has the highest volume of stops. I do about 22 stops I had on the schedule yesterday, which I can usually get done in a fair amount of time. But yesterday is just one of them days where everything was just taking forever. I started at the condominium. I already started late. I'm not sure what happened. I mean, I started after I dropped our son off at school, which, no big deal there. I love being able to do that. I would have, of course, you prefer to start a little earlier, but just be happy with the fact that, I'm able to do that and that both our kids are still at the age where, they like us taking them to school. So our son is a teenager, so you know how that goes when it comes to mornings and being ready on time and everything else. So I dropped him off and then went on about the route, went to the business park, the condominium that we service. I moved it to Mondays because I noticed that the whole front row of it is empty with cars every Monday morning, which means instead of me trimming the whole entire strip that's about 3 passes with a 61-inch mower, I'm actually able to do just that. Use a 61-inch mower to cut all that, which if I do it any other day of the week, I'm using either a trimmer to trim the whole entire thing or I'm using a push mower. And this is a pretty long strip. So being able to use a mower is a game changer, speeds up time on it. But it also has steep inclines on it. Ones that would be easier for my dually ZK72, which is what I would cut it with when I used to do it on Tuesday morning on my commercial day. But, and as most know, Mondays I travel a little lighter because I do a higher volume of stops, not so much the big lawns. Mondays I have only the 61 ZK when it comes to my like big mowers, my 32-inch stand on, and then a 21-inch mower, and whatever miscellaneous piece of equipment I decide to take that day. You know, maybe I have an aeration on the route. I'll put the stand on aerator up in the truck too. But that's how I travel on Mondays. So with the twills on that ZK61, I can still do a lot of that hill, but that 72 could pretty much do the whole entire hill, which is clutch. So there is the steep hill. I end up trimming most of that, but when you add up timing, I'm still a lot quicker taking care of the service with the 61 on Mondays only because of that first row being empty and it just being less traffic there, less people. I'm able to be more in and out. I mean, it still takes me, I would say, a minimum about an hour in the spring because a lot of edging too. When it's summertime, stuff isn't growing as much. I could probably get out there about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Plus, when school's out, I start a lot earlier. I'll probably be on that property at 7 a.m. on the dot, which is the earliest we can start out here in our area. I'm actually in Northern Virginia, and the county that we're in, earliest we can start is 7 a.m. So a lot of days, usually I try to be on the first property by 7 a.m. once school lets out. That way I can get in the house a lot sooner, a lot earlier, do some things with the family. So I say all that to say I started the condominium yesterday. Still trying to figure out what's the best way to do my routing when it comes to a lot of days during the week. Say that to also provide context for what I'm about to explain here. I know I keep saying I'm going to get into it, but here we go. Started the condominium, and then I went to the area where we have, geez, maybe 7, 8 homes. route density wise in that area. Um, the area, I mean, I'm talking about. There's a couple where I'm driving over a street. There's a couple where I might be driving a mile down the road, a mile up the road, but they're all in that vicinity. So I went there next. I tend to like doing those in the morning because you knock it out more. Part of me has thought about trying that in the afternoon to see how that goes, but that area tends to get traffic in the afternoon. So I'm not sure if I really want to try that. But anyways, I notice as I'm going through those stops that usually doesn't take me too long to get through. I kept looking at the time, and by the time I was leaving out of there, it was like 12 something, maybe 1. And I'm looking and I'm going, man, it doesn't usually take me this long. So the day was just taking forever. Lawns were growing tall, but it's nothing that I don't expect. Double cut, whoop de doo. It's what you expect. Uh, I go to most of these stops. I start the blower. I have two Echo 9010s. And I also have, I had a 770, Echo 770 that was stolen from me last year. That will be the lighter blower that I will use for basic lawn care, especially on, my Monday route because it's mostly homes, cookie cutter homes, versus any other day of the week where I'm either doing bigger properties or commercial. So, um, although that was stolen, I had a client, since we do their leaf removal every year, they actually gifted me a Steel 450, BR 450. And I didn't think I would really use it because I don't really use too much steel equipment. Never really liked too much how it ran, but I started to realize how light that bad boy was. And that's been my go to for like, just basic lawn care. And I keep the Echo 9010 in the truck for, any leaves or whatever, and as a backup because I keep backups for everything in there. So I get to the first stop, yanking, 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 taking forever to start. Finally start, get it going. Okay, cool. Getting frustrated. Get to the third stop, and I'm tired of yanking on the blower. Not to mention, it is 85 degrees, which is the warmest day we've had out here. It is 85 degrees, and who wants to be yanking on a blower after mowing and trimming out a whole property? Multiple times bending over to yank a blower to try and get it fired, it won't fire up. So I said, you know what? Let me go to the Echo 9010. Yang, yang, yang. It's fired up. Brr, 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 bogging. I'm like, oh my goodness, you got to be kidding me. Well, I'm going to deal with a blower that's not working right. Let me go with a lighter one. So I went back to the still. And keep in mind, I don't know what it is. This is like an issue every year. The first hot day, it's like equipment has to get adjusted to the heat. I also deal with a lot of vapor lock on this equipment from it being inside the box truck. With the heat, we got cracked the seal on the gas cap, and you hear it right away. Psst, psst, as the air lets out once you crack the seal of the gas cap. But that's just from all the heat in the box truck. I gotta double check my vents, make sure they all open, before it gets that warm again. So I have that issue, have the heat, your first day out, no matter how much you deal with the heat throughout a year, your first day or two is always the fun ones because your body's getting adjusted to being in the heat. So I have all that going for me. I'm trying not to get frustrated as I go through my day. Oh man, it's just kind of like one thing after another. You know how that goes. And for me, it's like probably my third or fourth week out mowing. I've been mowing since third week, I would say, of March, and we're going into the third week of April, or we're in the third week of April. So it's not like it's the first week. I expect this type of stuff on the first week. That's how it always goes. But as I'm starting to get discouraged, I started getting motivated again because I remember while I was out taking care of the services, I remember who I strive to do better for, and that's my family. I remember all the goals that I have, not so much for me, but for my family. I like to be able to take them on vacations, which happened pretty non existent over the past couple years since I've been full time owner operator. It's the time to schedule. That could be an excuse, but you know what? End of the day, I feel like if need be, could double up and get the route knocked out. It comes down to a lot of times income, trying to make sure that the cash flow is still there. And as I've expressed plenty of times, the cash flow in this business is nowhere near where I would like it to be, and that is something that, as we speak, I'm working on. That's one of my main goals this year, so that I'm able to. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to provide for my family, but and I thank God that I am able to provide. But me as a man, I know that that's not enough. Being able to provide once again, it's a blessing to be able to provide for your family. But for what I put into this business, I also would like to have money left over after we cover the bills. And to be completely honest, right now, it's not at the point where I would like it to be, where there is money left over after paying the bills. A lot of times after paying the bills, that's it. And it's funny because everybody always goes, must be nice to own a business, must be nice. Must be nice to set your own schedule, your own hours. Oh, you feeling a little sick? Why don't you just take a day off? That's not the case. It's actually not for everyone. You got to be a special breed. You got to be tough to be out here because it is definitely tough. So that's what I was thinking about when I'm almost in the process. I'm almost in the mindset of wanting to throw in the towel for the day and just say, you know what, let me try this again tomorrow. Like tomorrow's like the next day isn't gonna be just as just as bad considering it's spring rush. Everybody's grass is growing like crazy. Tuesday is my commercial day, so having to push anything from my Monday into that Tuesday is gonna be brutal. I did end up having to push about 2 stops out of the 22, so I got 20 done yesterday. Because the other thing that happened is, it's when it gets that hot, 85 degrees, you can't expect there to be afternoon storm, thunderstorm. Keep looking at the sky, getting darker, getting darker. Radar keeps saying we're gonna get some rain. Cool thing about this area is a lot of times when we get those type of rains, they're almost done in about 5-10 minutes. I start on one property. On property, I got two of them next to each other. I start on the one property, start feeling drops. I'm like, oh great. Well, let me at least try to finish mowing. Then it starts pouring. I run. I beeline that doggone 61 for the truck and just stood in the truck for about 5 minutes. Rain started lighting up and stopped. So I went ahead, trimmed. Well, I finished mowing. I trimmed edge and then blew out the properties. And at this point, thank God for the world's best supporting cast. Um, My wife knows that a lot of times I like to pick the kids up when I can, but on Mondays, a lot of times for sure, it's definitely usually Mondays and Tuesdays. My wife definitely has to do drop off and pick up because my routes are just that bad, that treacherous. I'm not even gonna say bad. It's just a lot of stops and a lot of volume to cover, and me being solo. These are all things I have to keep in mind. But yesterday was the day when my wife needed me to actually get our daughter from school. You know, our son rides the bus. Well, actually, he had practice for school baseball, and we usually pick him up later on the days he has practice from school. So my mom, thank God, like I said, we have the best supporting cast. Um, my mom picked up our daughter, and then as soon as my wife got done with what she needed to take care of, uh, she picked up our kids and basically said, "Hey, she knows how Spring Rush goes. We've been together the whole entire existence of this business. She's been there from the start. So if anyone knows how Spring Rush is, it is definitely my wife. She is the real MVP. And not sure if she really understands how much, but man, I could be having a bad day, a rough day, and she'll just call me up and say some things that will actually motivate me even more. So when she called me up, while running around, picking up the kids, she said, "Well, basically, go ahead and do what I need to do." So after that rain stopped, I went ahead and did one more after that. And it was just getting so late today, and my body was just beat from trying to just push it all day long. So I pushed the last stop into today's route, Tuesday, which on top of commercial, I have two extra stops. Cool. Now, when I send emails out saying, hey, sorry I couldn't make it out today, the storm, which that ended up being the difference due to the storm, I wasn't able to make it out. I'll come out either, we'll reschedule for Tuesday or Wednesday. See, I always put that buffer there because I hate to be the guy to say, I'm going to show up Tuesday, and then Tuesday is a long day and there's no way you can show up. Glad I did that because I'm going to get into that as well. So today, Tuesday, I'm doing the commercial sites, and I do have homes mixed in on my Tuesdays as well. I have a shopping center that has probably about an acre, 1 to 2 acre field on it. That alone, those usually take 2 hours. And there's another field next to them that's owned by someone else that we do once a month. I charge them as a bush hogging, even though it's just mown with the 72-inch at this point, because usually it's overgrown since it is once a month. So today I had that on there too. Took me 3 hours to get both fields and all the islands in the shopping center and everything around the perimeter of the shopping center completed. So that should tell you how the day went. I mean, the beginning I had the diner to do, and then I left to go to that shopping center. Did both of those fields. Had a couple homes scheduled from my Monday list. Right after that, I skipped those and said, you know what, that's definitely gonna be Wednesday because it's a lot going on. And my son is supposed to have a game today and practice for the other league because he's playing for a school and he's playing for rec. Uh, so, say all that to say, after going through two more homes I have scheduled before I get to another commercial, I went to that commercial, which is a HOA. I met with my point of contact who just came back into town after being gone for a couple months. To basically give a progress report, pretty much what's going on with the property and any complaints you might have had from one of the. I mean, it's a bunch of homes in this HOA. It's always some retiree in there that's complaining about something, well, no matter how minor. Which we're on top of everything, but it could be two leaves that fall in the street or something, and that ends up being a complaint. Took care of that site. I also had the lineman. I had to spray out the beds. I think I spent about an hour and a half out there. And I always got to do a cleanup out of, and I mean, it's a lot of landscape beds. I do a slight cleanup whenever I'm there too, every week. But I was able to get it out, hour and a half. Still had maybe 5, 6 more homes left. Son's game is at 5 today, so I was in such a hurry while still maintaining quality. And spring rush lawns are taller. So I had already had in my mind that I would skip the lawn that's furthest out. While pulling up to the next homes, get an email that his school game is canceled due to not being able to get a ref. So I'm like, well, that's interesting. I called my wife up and I said, it's crazy. I've been trying to move fast all day, so because I'm not gonna miss, I'm not gonna miss our son's game. That's one thing about me. I try not to miss anything. But when they canceled that, I took that as a blessing and went ahead and just took advantage of that time and did the house that was furthest out. I did the other couple homes, which, by the way, I had 19 on the board for today. I completed 17. So those two lawns I mentioned from Monday that carried over, I do things by the area that I'm in and where they fit in on the route. Because it's a commercial route, it's kind of spread, and made more sense for me to push both of those into tomorrow. So I did get 17 done. And for this to be my commercial route, that's still a victory. Consider I usually don't do that many on my commercial day, or at least I try not to schedule that many on my commercial day, because the commercial route takes a while to complete by itself. Tomorrow I have my commercial south. By the time you're listening to this podcast, it will be released on the same day as that. It'll be released on the same day. I'm sorry, I'm sitting here watching our son's practice. If which while I'm a little sidetracked as I talk here, watching him make plays out here. But tomorrow's commercial south, so I'll be traveling down to take care of HOA. About I think we got just three other homes down there to service. I don't have the pet salon this week down there. Then I have lawns in another area out here, and then there's another area where I have the two homes from Monday, which I'll definitely complete tomorrow. I have to get those complete. And I also have two aerations. One of them is on a property that I'm already going to be out to mow. Other one is someone that's going to be in that area who just signed up for their spring aeration. I'm sitting here looking at the schedule right now as we speak, trying to get ready for tomorrow, trying to get this situated. But hopefully, I'm not boring you guys kind of going with the day by day. But the main purpose of today's podcast is really keep your head up. Keep your head up because there are going to be days like this all the time where it's frustrating. Yes, it's definitely frustrating. But at the end of the day, just gotta power through it. And being a solo owner operator out here in the field is tempting many times to, bring on some help. And I know my family, they would love for me to do that too because they know the toll is taken on me going out by myself. And I would love to do that pretty soon here. I'm even thinking about possibly, maybe part time, my bigger days, which would be Monday and Tuesdays. Not too worried about Wednesdays because they're not really too crazy. Thursday, I'm doing big estates, so it's more so just work on the 72 all day. Light trimming here and there. But the reason why I haven't brought anyone in just yet, which I already first person I would you know try to get out here would be my guy who worked alongside me for years up until I decided to go solo, only because I'm trying to, restructure the company. Which, if you've heard some of my podcasts, I'm in that direction. I'm trending in the direction I wanted to, pretty much. And what I call the restructure, and basically by that, what I'm saying is I'm trying to make the business more fluid, build systems that I feel like it's easier to do on my own. Really build up the cash flow for sure. That's really important to me is building up the cash flow and just having it so fluid that when I do bring someone in, I could not only just train them to help me out, but train them to be, which if it is my guy, it's not too much training there. He knows as much as I do. It's just more so training him on how to run the route so I can make this a business that's a business that I run pretty much running. Uh, Let me reword that. A business that I'm working on versus in. Now, don't get me wrong. I am an operations guy. I love doing the work. I don't mind it so much, but the toll of having to do all the services, not really being able to take a day off, all that good stuff. It'd be great if things kept moving. Like if I needed to take a day off, if I needed to take a week off, a couple weeks off, whatever I needed to do, the business can still make money, which right now cannot. Not about me going out. We've been blessed, and I thank God every day that He blesses me to get up every morning. Am I sore? Yeah, I'm sore. I get up in the morning, sometimes I be beyond sore from trimming all day or mulching or any other service that I do. It is a lot of work being out here. It's not for the faint of heart. If you're a weak person, to be honest with you, this isn't for you. You gotta be a strong person to be out here and do what you need to do, especially when you have a family that's dependent on you. Best believe if you have a family that's dependent on you, you better give it your dead level best every single day that you get up out that bed. And that is what I do. I love my family. I love my wife. I love my kids. And I'll be doggone if I cheat them out of a great life by not giving it my all, not giving it my 100%. So, no matter how tough spring rush gets, I'm just going to lace up my boots tighter and keep it pushing because I love my family enough to give my all each and every day with no hesitation. So, if you have any down times, remember we're all in this together. Try to have you a great supporting cast around you. That always helps. My friends and family, I feel like I have the best ones in the world. There's been many times when they've brought me through, they brought me up, and I feel like I do the same for them. Also, my faith in God. My faith in God, because everything to this day has been a blessing. I don't know how many times when cash flow has been right in this business, a big bill's coming up the next day, and I'm sitting here just as a man, sitting here going, oh man, don't even have the money in the account. Then somebody will make a payment that I done forgot about, or somebody will just a client will hit me up on an email and say, hey, you know what? I'd like to go ahead and pay for this service for the year. I like this service. I like to go ahead and pay now. Or there's been a couple times where, I upgrade equipment, I sell what I'm not using. Where I've had people contact me on Marketplace like the day before, I have a major bill due that I don't know how I'm gonna cover. And I would sell that item. That's nothing but God right there. The strength every day to get up. That's God. So I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's I'm a man of God. I am a believer through and through. Well, that's where I'm going to end the conversation right now. But because my last podcast was so like bogged down, once again, I do apologize for that. I would like to go over my shout out again that I had in that podcast, which was to my boy who gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and I really do appreciate that. Because one thing I don't like is hearing myself talk, to be completely honest with you. So it takes a lot for me to actually do this. It took a lot for me to do YouTube while I was doing that, which I still do, just don't have as much time to do so. But my shout out is to Sevilla, aka Jacob, with Green Branch Landscaping out of the Maryland area. Let me tell you a little crazy story about myself and Jacob. I was selling a Boss tailgate spreader because we had just made the investment in the V spreader, V sander. He comes out, looks at the spreader to buy it, asked me to work the I added a vibrator to the spreader. We're trying to work that, jump it because I had unplugged it from the truck at that point. And we just started talking. We started talking, about the industry. And I mean, what's crazy is I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, man, when you hear this, I want to say Jacob was 22 when we initially met. At the time, I was probably 34, maybe 33. I don't know. Because I want to say it's been, what, 2 years? If it's not 2 years, it's a little less, but it's been about 2 years, man. And I was just taken away with the fact that at his age, he was so knowledgeable on the business and he's doing a lot of things that I wasn't doing at his age. So I was talking to him, giving him some little tips and tricks because I've done so many things the hard way, learned from the hard way to the point where I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell people this is what you got to do. I like to just give my advice and suggestions, and you take it, you take it, you don't, you don't. Jacob was like a sponge, man. He was there just taking in all the information. He was actually trying to have lunch with me that day so we can continue the conversation. But, I had plans with the wife and kids that day, and that's the only reason why I wasn't able to do that. But what's funny is after that day, we kept in contact, texting each other, congratulating each other. We see what we doing on IG. A lot of times we'll direct message or we'll text each other, pictures of the next edition or something like that. I had a 52-inch Bradley, and since I was going direction of all like 61s and 261s to 72 and like the smaller like 32 and the 21, I really didn't have a use for a 52. Kept trying to sell it, had tire kickers, and then I hit him up and I kept saying, "Hey man, this mower would be perfect for you," because he already had some mowers, but I think he had a walk behind and a stand on as far as his bigger, like wide deck mowers go. And I kept saying, "Hey man, this thing will be a great addition for you instead of that walk behind." It's like, "Yeah, I would like to, but not sure if I can string the cash on because congratulations at the time he was newly married." And then finally he said, "You know what? I can make that work." He came down, got that mower, that 52-inch Bradley, sold it to him. And he hit me up about a week later and said, yeah, this has changed the game for me. And the walk behind is now a backup. But I say all that to say, as I'm adding into this already long podcast, did not expect it to be this long. I say all that to say, you're supporting cast, man. It all connects to what I've just said. I'm sitting here shouting out my mans who gave us a 5-star review, and I would read it, but I'm not able to click out this recording and read what he said with the review. But once I seen the name pop up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my man right there. So that's part of that supporting cast, man. You find someone else in the business. Doesn't matter they're older or younger. You talk to them, and a lot of times you bounce ideas off each other because they're going through the same struggles that you are. But shout out to him. Shout out to my man Jacob, Green Branch Landscaping out of Maryland. Thank you for listening, man. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you, my believer brother, because that is real key. I appreciate it. And for all you who are listening to this elongated podcast, I may sound a little stopped up. That's because I have some bad allergies. And when you blowing pollen up in the driveways all day long, no matter what kind of allergy medicine you're on, it's not going to help you. I can be good all day when I'm working, but as soon as I get in the house, oh my goodness, I don't know what it is. That's when I start suffering. So I did this whole podcast pretty much with stopped up nose, and I hope that doesn't mess up the quality of this too much. But to all those who stayed on and listened, again, I appreciate your listenership. I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity again to come before you and talk about how my spring rush is starting out, how it's going, pretty much really talking about how the week has started for us here. Talking about keeping your head up, talking about staying motivated, and we're talking about staying prayed up. Now, once again, I really appreciate this because this is not easy for me to actually go on here and talk because I don't know what it is about listening to my own voice or even seeing myself on like YouTube, for example. When it comes to those two things, it's tough for me to do because I don't like sitting around listening to my own voice, if that makes any sense. But I feel like there's some value I could bring out there to all those who are in the same situation. Thank you. Y'all be blessed. And please follow the show. Please review. And please continue to give me a chance on this podcast as I continue to look for new ways to make this better for all those who are listening. And any suggestions, please let me know. Y'all take it easy. Have a blessed rest of the week. Peace.